She's scrolling through her phone right now, laughing at something someone else said, posting stories, living her life. And you're wondering if she's thinking about you at all, wondering if walking away was the right move. Wondering if maybe, just maybe, you should send that text, the one you've typed and deleted 17 times, because silence feels like losing, doesn't it? It feels like you're letting her slip away. But what if I told you that the silence isn't pushing her away? It's pulling her in slowly, quietly, in ways she doesn't even understand yet. And the longer you stay gone, the louder your absence becomes in her head. This isn't about playing games. This is about something deeper. Something most people never figure out until they've already lost themselves, trying to hold on to someone who was never really holding them back. You've been told your whole life that love is effort, that caring means showing up, that if you really want someone, you fight for them. And sure, that sounds beautiful. It sounds noble. But here's what nobody mentions. Effort only works when it's mutual. Showing up only matters when someone's actually there to meet you. And fighting for someone who isn't fighting for you, that's not love. That's self-abandonment. So you text her, you check in, you ask how her day was, you laugh at her jokes, you give her attention, affection, consistency, and what do you get back? Delayed responses, half-hearted replies, the feeling that you're always the one reaching out, always the one trying, always the one wondering if you matter at all. And then one day, you stop. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally realize that caring isn't enough. Not when it's one-sided. And that's when something interesting starts to happen. At first, she doesn't even notice. She's used to you being there. You're part of why chasing destroys your value. The furniture in her life. Expected, comfortable, safe. So when you go quiet, she assumes you're just busy. She assumes you'll text tomorrow or the next day. But then tomorrow comes and the next day and the day after that and still nothing. No good morning text, no random meme, no hey, how have you been? And now for the first time in a long time, there's a gap, a space where you used to be. And that space, it starts to feel heavy. If you're still here because something about this feels true, because you've been that person who gave everything and got breadcrumbs in return, hit subscribe, not because I need you to, but because you need a place that reminds you that you're not crazy for wanting more, that you're not asking for too much by expecting the energy you give to be matched. The people who stay here are the ones who are done shrinking themselves for someone else's comfort. If that's you, welcome. Now let's keep going. Here's what happens in her world when you disappear. She tells herself she doesn't care. She might even believe it for a while. She's busy. She's got options. She's fine. But then it's late at night. Her phone's in her hand. And she realizes she hasn't heard from you in days. And that realization sits differently than she expected. It's not relief. It's not freedom. It's uncomfortable. She opens your chat, scrolls up, reads old messages, notices how much you were carrying the conversation, how much you were showing up, and she feels something she didn't think she'd feel. A tiny flicker of what is that? Regret, curiosity, loss. She's not sure yet, but it's there. Then she starts testing. Maybe she posts a story she knows you'd usually react to. Maybe she likes an old picture of yours. Maybe the psychology behind absence and attraction. She sends a random casual text, something low-effort, something that doesn't require her to admit she's reaching out. And this is the moment where everything either resets or shifts, because most guys, the second they see that notification, they light up. They think, she's back, she misses me, this is my chance. So they reply immediately. They're warm, available, grateful. And just like that, she has her answer. You're still there. The door's still open. The safety net's still in place. And all that discomfort she was starting to feel gone because you just proved that your absence wasn't real. You were just waiting for permission to come back. And now she knows she didn't actually lose anything. You were always going to be there, but what if you don't respond? What if that text just sits there? What if she checks to see if you read it and you didn't? What if days go by and you still don't react? Now she's in a different place entirely. Now the discomfort deepens because she can't confirm that you're still thinking about her. She can't soothe herself with the idea that you're just playing it cool. You might actually be gone. And that thought, that possibility, it digs into her in ways she didn't expect, because humans don't handle uncertainty well. We need closure. We need to know where we stand. And when we don't get that, our mind starts spiraling, filling in the gaps, creating stories. She starts remembering things the way you used to make her laugh, the way you always knew when something was off. the way you showed up consistently, even when she didn't. She starts asking herself questions she wasn't asking before. Did I take him for granted? Was I unfair? Did I push away someone who actually cared? And the longer you stay silent, the louder these questions get. Not because you're doing what happens when you stop being available anything, but because you're not. And that absence, when it's real, when it's not a tactic, but a boundary, it has weight. It creates pressure. And pressure over time cracks things open. Now, I want to be really clear about something because this is where people get it twisted. This isn't manipulation. This isn't some strategy where you disappear to make her chase you. That's game playing. And game playing comes from insecurity. What I'm talking about is completely different. I'm talking about walking away because you genuinely respect yourself too much to stay in a dynamic that's draining you. I'm talking about choosing your peace over her. Maybe. I'm talking about refusing to audition for a role you should have already been cast in. That's not a tactic. That's self-preservation. And the reason it works isn't because you're trying to trick her. It's because authenticity is magnetic. When you walk away to get a reaction, she feels it. There's neediness underneath the distance. But when you walk away because you've genuinely moved your focus somewhere else because you're done, waiting for someone to see what's right in front of them, that's different. That lands different. Picture this. There's a guy who knows what he's worth, not in an arrogant way, not in a way where he's trying to prove anything. He just knows. And because he knows, he doesn't chase validation. He doesn't spiral when someone doesn't text back. He doesn't check her social media to see if she's moved on. He's just living. He's working on things that matter to him. He's building, growing, laughing with people who actually show up for him. And he's not doing it to make her jealous. He's not posting things hoping she'll see. He's genuinely moved forward. And that version of him, that's what she starts to feel. Not because he's trying to make her feel anything, but because energy doesn't lie. And the energy of a man who's no longer waiting around, that's undeniable. She doesn't just wonder if you're okay. She wonders if time reveals what words can't fix. Changed, if you've leveled up, if the version of you she remembers is even still available. And that thought, it terrifies her a little because when you were always there, you were predictable, safe, a known option, but now you're a variable. You're evolving without her. And she doesn't know if she still has access. She doesn't know if she can just walk back in whenever she feels like it. And that uncertainty, it makes her start to see you differently. Not as the guy who was always chasing, but as the guy who had the strength to walk away. And strength, real quiet strength. That's what people remember. That's what haunts them. But here's the part that scares most men. What if she never comes back? What if she just moves on and you never hear from her again? And I'm not going to lie to you, that could happen. She might not reach out. She might not unravel the way you hope she will. She might not realize what she lost until it's way too late. Or maybe not at all. And if that possibility terrifies you, that's actually good information because it means you're still too attached to the outcome. You're still measuring your worth by whether or not she chooses you. And that's the real issue, not her. Not her silence, not her indecision, your dependence on her validation. And until you break that, it doesn't even matter if she comes back because you'll still be operating from lack, from need, from a place that makes you small. So instead of asking, what if she doesn't come back? Try asking this. What if I waste more time waiting for someone to see my value instead of building a life where my value is undeniable? That's the real question, because the tragedy isn't losing her. The tragedy is losing yourself trying to keep her. And that's what happens when you stay, when you keep trying, when you keep explaining and proving and hoping. You sacrifice your peace, your boundaries, you're reclaiming your power and self-respect. Self-respect all for the chance that maybe if you just give a little more, she'll finally see you. But she won't. Not like that. Because people don't value what they don't have to work for. They don't appreciate what's always available. And they definitely don't respect someone who doesn't respect themselves. Let me tell you what happens when a man truly walks away. And I mean really walks away, not as a game, but as a standard. He stops checking if she's watching his stories. He stops crafting the perfect message that might get her to respond. He stops replaying conversations in his head, analyzing what he could have said differently. He just lets go. He accepts that he showed up as the best version of himself he knew how to be. And if that wasn't enough, then the fit wasn't right. Not him, the fit. And that acceptance is everything because it frees him from needing her to validate his decision. He's no longer stuck in her narrative. He's writing his own. And that shift, that internal shift, it changes everything. Here's what most people don't understand about time and distance. Every single day you stay away is another day she has to sit with your absence. And the mind doesn't do well with open loops. It needs resolution. It creates meaning where there isn't any. It assigns weight to silence. So the longer you're gone, the heavier your absence becomes. She starts wondering, remembering, questioning, not because you're doing anything to make her, but because the space itself is doing the work. And time, when you give it room to breathe, has a way of revealing the truth. She starts to miss the little things, the consistency, the way you made her feel safe, the way you actually listened. And all those things she took for granted when you were there, they start to feel irreplaceable now that you're not. But here's the catch. Most men don't make it this far. They break. They crack under the pressure of silence. They reach out because the discomfort feels unbearable, because silence feels like rejection, and rejection feels like failure. So they text, they check in, they try to fix things. And the second they do, the spell breaks, the tension collapses, and the unraveling effect. Why she starts to break. She goes right back to seeing them the way she always did, available, predictable, safe. Nothing's changed. But if you stay gone, if you sit with the discomfort and let it sharpen you instead of break you, that's when the real transformation happens for both of you. And while you're gone, you're not just sitting around hoping she notices. You're rebuilding. You're taking all that mental energy you used to spend on her, the overthinking, the analyzing, the wondering, and you're pouring it into yourself. You start waking up with purpose. You start moving your body. You start working on the things you kept putting off because you were too distracted by someone who wasn't even fully present. You start saying no to things that drain you and yes to things that build you. You start choosing yourself in ways you never did before. And somewhere in that process, something shifts. You stop thinking about her every hour, then every day, then at all. Not because you're forcing it, but because your life has become too full to revolve around someone who wasn't revolving around you. And that's when you've actually walked away. Not physically, emotionally, energetically. You've reclaimed your attention, your power, your peace. And when you reach that point, if she does come back, you'll see her with completely different eyes. You'll see the patterns you ignored, the inconsistencies you rationalized, the red flags you painted green because you wanted it to work, and you'll have a choice, a real one, not from desperation, not from loneliness, but from clarity. Maybe you let her back in if she's genuinely changed, if she's done her own work, if the dynamic is different, or maybe you realize that the man you've become deserves someone who didn't need to lose him to value him, someone who shows up from the beginning, someone who matches your energy without needing a wake-up call, and that realization, that's freedom. Imagine the man who lives this. He's not angry. He's not bitter. He's not walking around trying to prove he doesn't need anyone. He's just calm, centered, clear. He knows what he offers, and he's not interested in convincing people of it anymore. He respects women, but he respects himself more. He's open to connection, but he's not desperate for it. He'll walk away from anything that costs him his peace, and he'll do it how your silence becomes your strength, without drama, without explanation, without looking back. He's not punishing anyone. He's just protecting his energy. And because of that, he attracts different people now. Not people who take him for granted, not people who only show up when it's convenient, but people who recognize that access to him is earned, not assumed. And he doesn't have to say that. It's just understood. His boundaries say it, his actions say it, his life says it. That's who you become when you stop waiting and start building. You're not the guy refreshing her profile. You're not the guy wondering what she's doing or who she's with. You're the guy creating something undeniable. And whether she comes back or not, you've already won because you got yourself back. And that's the only thing that ever really mattered. So here's what you do. If you're in a situation where you're being treated like a backup plan, where your effort isn't being met, where you feel like you're always the one trying, stop right now. Stop texting. Stop explaining. Stop trying to prove your worth to someone who's not investing in seeing it. Walk away. Not to manipulate her, Not to play games, but because you respect yourself too much to stay where you're not genuinely wanted. And then use the space that opens up to become someone you're proud of, someone who doesn't need anyone else's approval to feel whole, someone who's so locked into their own path that distractions lose their grip. If she comes back, you evaluate it with clear eyes and real standards. And if she doesn't, you keep going anyway because you were already moving forward. The longer you stay away, the deeper she. Final truth, you don't chase, you attract unravels. But more importantly, the longer you stay away, the stronger you become. And strength like that doesn't need to be recognized to be real. It just is. And when you move from that place, everything shifts. Not just with her, with everyone. You stop being reactive. You stop being available to everything. You become intentional, selective, deliberate, and that version of you doesn't chase anymore. That version attracts. That version wins. Not because you're playing the game better, but because you stopped playing altogether. You started living. If this hit you, if it woke something up in you that's been asleep for too long, subscribe right now. This channel isn't for people looking for quick fixes or tricks to make someone want them. It's closing thoughts. Your worth isn't negotiable for people who are ready to stop giving their power away, who are waiting for someone else to see their value, who are ready to build a life so strong that anyone who doesn't appreciate it simply doesn't get access to it. That's what we do here. That's who we are. And if that sounds like where you need to be, then you're already home. Let's keep building. You don't need her to come back for this to matter. You don't need her to validate your decision to walk away. You just need to trust that when you pair self-respect with time, something breaks open, illusions fall away, truth rises up, and the truth is simple. You're not losing anything by staying gone. You're gaining everything. Your clarity, your confidence, your life back, and that's worth more than any late night text, any apology, any breadcrumbs she might toss your way to see if you're still waiting. You're worth more than crumbs. So stop accepting them and watch what happens when you finally remember who you